Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let me tell you something today. Not everything that breaks you was meant to bury you. Sometimes it was meant to birth something brand new inside of you. Can I get a witness? See, we live in a world that idolizes the first kiss, first job, first love. And when that first love crumbles, when it slips through our fingers like water, we're left in the wreckage, thinking it's the end of our story. But I came to declare to someone today, the second love is not just a chapter, it's often the beginning of the real book. Because that second love, oh, that second love, it doesn't just stumble into your life. It walks in on purpose, it shows up with healing in one hand and patience in the other. It's not blinded by fantasy, it sees your flaws and still chooses you. Somebody say amen. The first love often comes when you are still discovering who you are. But that second love, it meets you where you've been broken. It doesn't try to fix you with fairy tales. It builds with truth, with experience, with depth. Let me tell you why the second love is very, very important. Because it teaches you how to love with wisdom, not just emotion. It teaches you that love is not possession, it's partnership. The second love doesn't rush. It listens, it learns, it waits for the right season, and when it blooms with grace. So don't curse the pain of the past. Don't be bitter about what didn't last, because God will often use your broken pieces to build your strongest foundation. That's why the second love is not your rebound, it's your reward. Don't let your history block your destiny. Don't build a wall so high that the blessing can't climb over it. You cried tears over the first love, but the second one will wipe them away. Yes, you were wounded. Yes, you were disappointed. But you're not damaged goods. You're a testimony in progress. And when that second love finds you, or when you find it, it will be worth every lonely night, every unanswered question, every season of silence. Let your heart hope again. Let it trust again, because the second love, the very important second love, it's not just about falling again. It's about rising better than before. Second love is born from healing, not fantasy. The first time you fall in love, it's often wrapped in the glow of innocence. You don't know what you don't know. It's all fireworks and butterflies, sweet words and soft promises, and that's beautiful for a season. But the first love often comes before the wounds, before the storms, before you've walked through the valleys and learned how deep love really goes. But that second love, oh, it's different. It's not built on fantasies. It's built on foundation. It doesn't arrive on the wings of illusion. It comes through the door of healing. It comes after the breaking. After the tears, after the hard nights when you wondered if you'd ever be able to love again. The second love doesn't try to erase your scars. No, it honors them, because it knows those scars are proof that you survived. It's not afraid of your past. It walks beside it and still chooses you, fully, freely, and faithfully. See, the first love may have made you feel alive, but the second love, it teaches you how to live. It's not caught up in the dream, it's anchored in reality. It speaks your love language not just with words, but with actions. It doesn't sweep you off your feet. It walks with you, steady and sure. So hear me today. The second love is not for who you were, it's for who you became. It loves the healed you, the wiser you, the real you. And that's why second love is not a lesser love, it's a greater love. When love first finds us, it often arrives like a thunderstorm in the middle of summer. Sudden, overwhelming, electrifying. We run toward it without hesitation, arms wide open, hearts naive and untouched by the weight of betrayal or the sting of disappointment. That first love is full of color and wonder. It dances in the daylight and whispers promises in the dark. But much of what we experience in that first encounter with love is painted by fantasy, not forged by fire. It's love through the lens of innocence. We imagine it will fix everything, complete us, make life whole. We believe in the fairy tale because we haven't yet tasted the heartbreak that teaches us the truth. But life has a way of shaking us out of the dream. That first love, as bright as it may have been, doesn't always last. Sometimes it fades, other times it fractures, and sometimes it breaks us into pieces we didn't know existed. It's in those moments after the loss that we begin to understand that love, real love, is not about perfection or passion that never fades. It's about presence, it's about commitment, it's about choosing even when it's hard, and that lesson, that deep and soul-shaping revelation, is what prepares us for what comes next. Because after the first love ends and the ache sets in, after the nights spent questioning what went wrong and wondering if love is even worth it again, something sacred begins to happen. Healing starts. Slowly, quietly, sometimes painfully. It doesn't announce itself, and it doesn't come all at once. It creeps in through the cracks of the broken heart, like light through stained glass. And as we begin to pick up the pieces, not just of what was lost, but of who we were before it, something stronger begins to form. We learn things we couldn't have understood before: the value of boundaries, the power of self-worth, the beauty of emotional honesty. We learn that love is not about losing yourself in another person, but finding someone who sees all of you and still chooses to stay. We realize that being needed and being valued are not the same. And in that growth, in that messy, beautiful, and deeply personal process of becoming whole again, we prepare ourselves for a different kind of love. When the second love enters our lives, it doesn't arrive with a parade or fireworks. It comes quietly, gently. It doesn't demand your heart. It earns your trust. It's not in a hurry to impress. It's there to understand. This love is not born out of fantasy, out of what we hope or pretend someone could be. It's born out of clarity. It's born from the honest realization of what love is and what it is not. This second love is the product of healing, the fruit of surviving, the reward of choosing to try again when giving up would have been easier. It sees you, not just the version you post for the world, but the tired, scared, flawed version you tried to hide the first time, and it doesn't run, it doesn't flinch, because this love is not afraid of brokenness. It has known its own. It recognizes your wounds not as weaknesses, but as proof that you endured. It doesn't seek to fix you, but to walk with you. It knows that healing isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. And this love shows up again and again, with consistency, compassion, and care. The second love doesn't idealize you. It doesn't place you on a pedestal only to knock you down the first time you falter. It stands beside you through the mundane and the messy. It understands that love isn't just made in candlelight and kisses. It's made in conflict, in forgiveness, in sacrifice, in patience. The fantasy is replaced by faith, not in some flawless future, but in the daily decision to keep choosing each other, even when it's not easy, even when it's not romantic, even when the feeling fades and the work begins. This love is not loud, but it is powerful, not perfect, but it is true, and it is important, because it teaches us what the first love could not. It teaches us that love doesn't always feel like flying. Sometimes it feels like standing still. Sometimes it feels like building from scratch. Sometimes it feels like waiting, listening, yielding, and yet in all of that it is real. What makes this second love so sacred is not just that it arrives after the fall, but that it accepts who you are because of the fall. It doesn't want the polished, filtered version of you. It wants the real you, the version shaped by struggle, the one who has cried and healed and dared to hope again. It doesn't punish you for your past. It respects it. Because it understands that what you went through gave birth to the depth you now carry, the depth that allows you to love in a way you never could before. This kind of love doesn't walk in expecting completion. It walks in ready to complement. It doesn't demand wholeness. It adds to it. It knows that healing is not linear, that some days will still hurt, that some triggers will still come. But it doesn't make you feel guilty for that. It makes space for it, and in that space love grows, a deeper love, a wiser love, a love that listens before it speaks, a love that leans in instead of walking away, a love that is patient with your process. And maybe the most beautiful thing about second love is that it makes you believe again, not in the perfection of people, but in the possibility of connection. It teaches you that pain is not the end, that heartbreak is not the final word, that just because you were once broken doesn't mean you're unlovable. It shows you that there is love that waits, love that heals, love that holds your hand not because it needs to, but because it wants to. This love is not a sequel, it's not a repeat, it's a resurrection. It's proof that life can come from loss, that joy can rise from grief, that after the dust settles, beauty can still bloom. It's a reminder that love is not about starting over, it's about starting deeper. Starting wiser, starting braver, and yes, it's scary. It takes courage to try again. It takes strength to open your heart when it has been shattered before. But the second love is worth that courage. It is worth every risk, because it does not arrive to complete a story. It arrives to write a new one with honesty, with growth, with purpose. So if you're standing on the other side of heartbreak, wondering if love is still out there, let me say this to you with all the hope I have, it is. And when it finds you, it won't need to be loud to be real. It won't need to prove itself to be powerful. It will walk in gently, and it will speak to the healed places, and to the ones still healing. And you'll know, not because it feels like fantasy, but because it finally feels like truth. And that is why the second love, quiet, patient, honest, is not only important, it is very, very important. Love has a way of arriving when it is meant to, not when we think we are ready. We often chase it in our younger days with wide eyes and open hearts, convinced we're prepared for something we don't yet understand. That first love, the one that finds us when we're still learning how to stand on our own two emotional feet, can feel like everything. It lights us up and lifts us high, and we call it love, even though we are still growing into the people we're meant to be. We give so much of ourselves, sometimes without even knowing who we are yet. We bend, we break, we give. We lose ourselves in the story because we think that love is supposed to feel like losing control. But real love, lasting love, the kind that changes you in the best ways, that love waits for growth. There is something sacred about the love that finds you after the growth. It doesn't interrupt the process. It honors it. It doesn't try to mold you. It admires the shape you've become. Because this love shows up not in the chapters where you're still figuring out what you deserve, but in the ones where you've learned the hard way what not to settle for. It walks into your life after you've spent seasons in silence, after you've spent nights wrestling with yourself, after you've made peace with the idea that loving yourself must come first. And then, when you least expect it, someone walks in, not to rescue you, but to recognize you. You see, when you've grown, you stop searching for someone to complete you. You understand that you are already whole. You've had to face the mirror, not just to see your reflection, but to face your fears, your insecurities, your old patterns, your unhealthy attachments. You've had to let go of people you loved deeply because you finally realized they didn't love you in a way that honored who you were becoming. Growth costs. It costs tears. It costs pride. It costs time. But oh, the reward. When love meets you there in that place where you've done the work, there is nothing like it. This kind of love doesn't fall in love with your potential. It respects your process. It loves you not just for where you're going, but for everything you had to overcome to get here. It doesn't just see your smile. It understands what it cost to wear it again. It doesn't just enjoy your presence. It honors your survival. You're not the same person you were when you loved the first time. Back then, you might have loved out of loneliness. You might have clung to something that looked like love because you didn't know what real love looked like. You might have confused chaos for passion, silence for peace, and attention for affection. But now you've grown, now you know better. Now you know what to walk away from, and what to wait for. Love that meets you after you've grown will not try to shrink you. It will not silence the voice you spent years learning how to use. It won't ask you to choose between your dreams and your relationship. It won't be threatened by your strength or intimidated by your independence. In fact, it will celebrate it, because this kind of love isn't rooted in insecurity, it's rooted in admiration. It's the kind of love that sees you for all that you are and says, yes, I choose you, fully as you are. I don't need you to be less for me to feel more. I want all of you. When you've grown, you stop needing love to feel like escape. You no longer run to someone to avoid being alone. You've already made friends with your solitude. You know how to enjoy your own company. You know how to sit with your sadness and not numb it with someone else's presence. You've stopped using love as a bandage for wounds you haven't addressed. You've cleaned those wounds. You've treated them. You've watched them scar over, and you've learned that healing is not linear, but it is real. So when love finds you again, you're not asking it to save you. You're inviting it to join you. You love differently after you've grown. You love slower, you ask more questions, you listen more closely, not just to what someone says, but to how you feel when you're with them. You pay attention to peace, you trust your instincts, you don't ignore red flags just because you don't want to be alone. You've already survived being alone, and you've learned to thrive in it. Now, you're not just looking for someone to fill a space, you're looking for someone who deserves the space you've worked so hard to protect. Love that meets you after you've grown will not try to rush the process. It understands that deep connection takes time, that trust must be built, not demanded, that intimacy is not about proximity, but about safety. It will move at the pace of your comfort. It will honor your boundaries. It will not get offended when you speak up for yourself. It will not weaponize your honesty. It will not punish you for having needs. Because this love has grown too. It has its own story of heartbreak and healing. And when two grown hearts meet, it is not about fixing each other. It's about facing life together. When you've grown, you stop fantasizing about love and start being intentional with it. You realize it's not about grand gestures, but consistent presence. It's not about never arguing, but learning how to disagree with respect. It's not about never being hurt, but being able to talk through the hurt and heal together. It's not about perfect compatibility. It's about mutual effort. It's about both people showing up, choosing each other again and again, even when the feelings fluctuate and the butterflies settle down. Growth teaches you that love is a practice, not just a feeling. And when love meets you after you've grown, it respects the work you've put in, not just in your healing, but in how you've learned to love others better too. Because growth doesn't just change how you receive love, it transforms how you give it. You become more patient, more forgiving, more honest. You don't expect someone to read your mind because you've learned how to use your voice. You don't expect love to be effortless because you know that anything worth having requires intentional care. And when two people who have grown find each other, there's a stillness between them, not boredom, peace. That quiet kind of connection where you don't have to perform, you don't have to pretend, you don't have to be anything other than exactly who you are. That kind of love is rare. That kind of love is powerful. Because it's not built on fantasy, it's built on reality, two real people with real pasts choosing a real future together. So if you're still in the growing, don't rush it, don't resent it. That growth is preparing you for something that won't require you to sacrifice your identity. That growth is building the version of you who will not just love, but be loved well. And when that love finds you after all the tears, after all the letting go, after all the becoming, you will not have to chase it. You will recognize it, you will feel seen, you will feel safe, and you will know deep in your soul, this is what I was growing for. There is something strikingly honest about love the second time around. It is no longer chasing a dream built on borrowed ideals. It is not love dipped in fantasy or dressed up in the illusions of youth. It does not arrive pretending to be something it's not, and it doesn't ask you to pretend either. The second love steps in quietly but surely, and what it desires more than anything is truth. It is not interested in performance, perfection, or illusion. It seeks something real, something rooted, something that will not collapse at the first sign of conflict or imperfection. In our earliest experiences with love, many of us fall for the image of a person rather than the person themselves. We are pulled in by charm, swept away by chemistry, seduced by the fantasy of what we imagine love should be. We cling to illusions, what we think someone could become, what we hope the relationship might eventually look like, what we fear losing more than what we are truly gaining. And so often, the truth is sacrificed in the name of holding on to a story we've already written in our minds. But time teaches you differently. Heartbreak teaches you differently. That moment when the curtain falls and you see someone for who they really are, not who you tried to believe they were, changes you. That disillusionment doesn't make you bitter, it makes you wise. It trains your eyes to see more clearly, your heart to listen more carefully, your soul to crave something deeper than surface beauty or shallow promises. It teaches you that love based on illusion cannot survive the truth, and truth always shows up. Eventually, it always shows up. That is why second love arrives differently. It doesn't try to dazzle you. It doesn't seek to impress. It doesn't flash grand declarations while hiding its real intentions. Instead, it shows up as it is. It tells the truth, not the polished version, not the version crafted to win your favor, but the honest version, the vulnerable, transparent, humble version, and it invites you to do the same. It doesn't want your performance, your mask, or your people-pleasing habits. It wants to know you truly. It wants to sit with your truth and still choose you. This love doesn't fear reality, it respects it. It doesn't flee from the hard conversations. It doesn't avoid discomfort. It doesn't silence the tension that sometimes rises when two different people are trying to merge their lives. Instead, it leans into those moments with grace. It says, "Let's talk about it. Let's understand it. Let's face it together." There is no pretending here, because this kind of love knows that pretending only postpones pain. In your second love, truth becomes the foundation, not just truth between you and the other person, but the truth you've had to learn about yourself. You are no longer trying to be liked, you are trying to be understood. You are no longer trying to win someone's approval, you are searching for mutual recognition. You show up as yourself, not because you're arrogant, but because you've earned your identity. You've wrestled with your insecurities. You've questioned your patterns. You've torn down the walls you built to protect yourself from getting hurt again. And you are no longer afraid of being seen. That is growth. That is maturity. That is truth. And so this love, this second love, becomes a safe space for truth to exist. You stop needing to explain away your needs or minimize your emotions. You don't feel guilty for having boundaries. You don't shrink yourself to make someone else comfortable. Because this love doesn't require that. It values truth over ease. It would rather hear the hard thing and deal with it than ignore it until it breaks everything. It understands that pretending everything is okay is not the same as peace. That silence is not always serenity. That sweeping things under the rug only turns them into landmines waiting to explode. When love values truth, it doesn't crumble under the weight of reality. It adapts. It strengthens. It transforms. There is a quiet power in loving someone with eyes wide open. You're not ignoring their flaws. You're accepting them. You're not denying your own triggers. You're owning them. You both come to the relationship with awareness, not amnesia. And from that awareness, something rare is born, trust, because you know this person is not hiding from themselves or from you. The illusions that ruled your younger heart no longer have power over you. You're no longer attracted to people who confuse chaos with passion. You no longer confuse distance with mystery. You don't chase people who run hot and cold just to keep you guessing. You want what is consistent, what is present, what is rooted. And that doesn't mean you've lowered your standards. It means you've raised them. You've learned to value the things that last over the things that excite. You've learned that butterflies don't build homes. Honesty does. You begin to look at love differently when you've lived through its illusions. You stop romanticizing the drama. You no longer mistake adrenaline for affection. You crave calm. You respect clarity. You want conversations that go beyond surface-level flattery into the deep waters of real understanding. You want someone who can sit with your silence, hold your truth, and still stay, and you also learn to give truth in return. You stop trying to be the ideal partner and start being a real one. You say what you mean. You let them see your doubts, your fears, your contradictions. You let them know where you hurt, not to be fixed, but to be known. And when love is real, that truth doesn't scare them away. It draws them closer, because real love isn't looking for a flawless partner, it's looking for an honest one. This is why second love is such a holy thing. Not because it is perfect, but because it is grounded. It doesn't depend on illusion to survive. It doesn't rely on performance to keep going. It thrives in truth, in all its uncomfortable, unfiltered, honest glory. It is not afraid of your shadow side. It knows you are not just the good moments and the easy days. You are also the scars, the mess, the moments of doubt, and it stays, not because it has to, but because it chooses to. When you find someone who values truth over illusion, you find freedom, the freedom to show up without armor, the freedom to speak without editing, the freedom to be messy, to be human, to be in process. And when two people love each other in truth, they don't just build a relationship. They build a home, a place where the real is celebrated and the fake has no place. A place where honesty becomes the language of love, not just an occasional confession. A place where truth is not a threat, but a tool to grow, to connect, to build something lasting. And so the second love, the one that comes after the fire, after the fall, after the illusion has shattered and you've rebuilt yourself from the ground up, that love becomes more than romance. It becomes redemption, not because it rescues you from loneliness, but because it reminds you that truth can be beautiful. That love in its purest form doesn't require illusion to survive. It only requires that we be brave enough to be honest, and kind enough to hold each other when the truth gets heavy. That is the power of second love. It sees you, it knows you, and it loves you, not as a fantasy, but as a fact. Pain has a way of doing what comfort never could. It breaks you open. It shows you what you're made of. It strips away the illusions you didn't even know you were holding on to. And when that pain comes from love, especially the first love, it cuts deep, because it doesn't just hurt your heart. It confronts your hope. It challenges your innocence. It changes your definition of what it means to give and receive. And in that breaking, if you allow it, something unexpected can begin. Depth. A depth that you would never have known how to reach if you hadn't first fallen from the shallow promises of the love you once thought would last forever. The pain of first love is unlike anything else, not because it is the worst pain you'll ever feel, but because it's the first time you're learning what love can really do. It's the first time you've placed your entire heart into someone else's hands and believed, perhaps naively, that they would know how to hold it. It's the first time you thought you had found forever, only to realize that forever isn't built on feelings alone. That discovery, that rupture, leaves a mark. It carves into you in ways you don't understand at the time, but later, when you're far from the wreckage, you look back and see what it gave you, not just what it took from you. It taught you how to survive emotional loss. It taught you how to sit in silence without needing answers. It taught you that someone leaving doesn't mean you are unworthy. It taught you that disappointment does not mean you were foolish for hoping. And it taught you that you can rebuild, you can come back, maybe not the same, maybe not as soft, maybe not as quick to give, but certainly wiser, certainly stronger, and certainly deeper. Because here's the truth, depth is not inherited. It's earned. It is chiseled into your spirit through moments that threaten to undo you. You cannot learn real love from only the sweet parts. You cannot understand patience, forgiveness, empathy, or resilience unless you've had to fight to find those things inside yourself. The pain from your first love does more than bruise you. It begins to stretch you. It pushes you into questions about who you are without someone else, about what you need that no one else can give you, about what love is supposed to mean when it stops feeling good. Pain invites reflection. It invites solitude. It forces you to turn inward. When you're left sitting in the aftermath of a love that didn't last, you stop asking, "What did they do?" and start asking, "What did I learn?" That shift is subtle but powerful, because pain, when it's processed, not buried, opens doors. You start seeing what you ignored. You recognize the red flags you once romanticized. You remember the moments when your gut whispered, "This doesn't feel right." And you stayed anyway. That reflection doesn't just lead to regret, it leads to revelation. You begin to see how deep love must go to truly be sustainable, that it's not just about butterflies or grand gestures. It's about the quiet, daily choice to care, to respect, to remain honest. You start to see that the next time you love, it cannot be surface level. It cannot be built on the need to be needed, or the fear of being alone, or the thrill of being seen. It has to be rooted, anchored, real, and that kind of love, it only becomes possible after you've felt the sting of what happens when it's not. So in many ways, that pain becomes a gift, not immediately, not while it's fresh. In the beginning, it just feels like loss, like confusion, like betrayal maybe, like an ache you can't name. But eventually, when the tears have dried and the silence is no longer so loud, you realize something profound. You didn't just survive. You changed, you deepened, you now carry an understanding you never had before. An understanding that love, to be love, must be more than attraction. It must be more than compatibility. It must be more than excitement. It must be honest. It must be tested. It must be mutual. Pain gives you depth because it humbles you. It shows you your limits. It shows you how far you're willing to bend, how much you're willing to lose, how quickly you're willing to excuse behaviors just to keep someone close. And when you recognize those patterns, when you name them, you stop carrying them into every future connection. You stop bleeding on people who didn't cut you. You stop punishing new hearts for old wounds. And you start healing, not just so you can be loved again, but so you can love differently. Depth makes your heart more discerning. You stop falling for potential and start seeing patterns. You ask better questions. You listen more carefully, not just to words, but to consistency. You know what peace feels like now. You're no longer intoxicated by chaos. You want love that aligns with your values, not just your emotions. You want love that matches your effort, not just your longing. And the only reason you've come to want those things is because you've learned what it feels like to live without them. Pain from the first love doesn't just prepare you to love another. It prepares you to love yourself. Because at some point you realize the greatest tragedy wasn't that they left or that it ended. The greatest tragedy would have been losing yourself trying to hold on to something that wasn't meant to stay. And when you finally understand that, you begin to anchor your worth in something stronger than someone else's presence. You find your value in your ability to heal, to rise, to continue loving in spite of what tried to shut you down. This new version of you is deeper, not harder, just deeper, not cynical, just wiser, not bitter, just clear. You can look back at your first love and say thank you, not because of the hurt, but because of the growth. You can say, "That broke me, but it built me too." You can acknowledge that while it didn't last, it wasn't wasted. It brought you to the edge of yourself and then showed you that you could go further. And in that place beyond, the edge depth was born. So when love finds you again, and it will, you'll meet it with a new set of eyes. You'll recognize authenticity because you've seen illusion. You'll know the difference between attention and intention. You'll know how to hold space for someone else's truth because you've had to sit alone with your own. And you won't rush it. You won't try to force it to fit. You'll let it unfold. You'll let it breathe. Because you're not afraid of being alone anymore. Pain taught you how to be whole, and from that wholeness, love becomes not a rescue but a reunion with someone who meets you where you are and joins you in going even deeper. That's what pain does. It prepares you for love that is rooted, love that is real, love that doesn't run from the hard parts. It grows your capacity. It softens your edges while sharpening your focus. It turns your heartbreak into holy ground, and from that ground something honest can grow. Something sacred, something enduring, something deep. Second love doesn't rush. It doesn't sprint into declarations, doesn't leap over the lessons of the past, doesn't confuse excitement with certainty. It takes its time, not because it is unsure, but because it is wise. It knows that anything worth building must be built with care, with patience, and with presence. It is not in a hurry to arrive. It is content to walk, to unfold, to breathe. The first time we love, we tend to run. We run with our hearts wide open and our eyes half closed. We move quickly, passionately, eagerly, as if we are afraid love might disappear if we don't hold on to it fast enough. There's a thrill in the speed, a sense of urgency that feels like destiny. But often we are running toward a version of love that exists more in our imagination than in reality. And when the rush fades, we're left with a network error occurred. Please check your connection and try again. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at help.openeye.com. When we speak of second love, there is often a misconception that it is a rebound, a mere consolation prize given to those who have been left behind by their first great romance. The world tries to frame it that way, as if the second chance at love is somehow less genuine, less meaningful, less real, but the truth is far from that. Second love is not a rebound, it is a reward. It is not a desperate grasp for something to fill an empty space. It is a prize earned through endurance, through growth, through the courage to open your heart again when it felt like it might never heal. A rebound is rushed, frantic, a hurried attempt to erase the pain of what came before. It's often driven by fear, fear of being alone, fear of losing identity, fear of facing the quiet moments where the absence of love echoes loudest. Rebounds are quick fixes, temporary patches over wounds that need time to heal. They are often more about distraction than connection. But second love, it is the opposite. It is the calm after the storm, the light that comes after the long night, the peace that follows the struggle. Second love comes not because you want to run away from your past, but because you have done the hard work of standing still in it. You have faced your pain, you have faced your doubts, you have looked at the fragments of your heart and decided to rebuild rather than abandon. And so this love arrives not as a bandage but as a balm. It is gentle yet powerful. It does not demand that you forget what was lost. It honors the journey that brought you here. It celebrates the strength you found when you thought you were broken. This love is a reward because it is given to the person who has learned something invaluable. That love is not about perfection, but about perseverance. It is not about finding someone who completes you, but someone who complements your wholeness. It is about two people who have lived, who have stumbled, who have grown, and who now meet with open eyes and open hearts, ready to choose each other every day. This kind of love is rare because it is rooted in reality, not fantasy. It recognizes flaws not as deal breakers, but as parts of a beautiful, imperfect whole. The reward of second love is the wisdom it carries. It is a love that knows what it wants and refuses to settle for less. It refuses to be swept away by empty promises or superficial charm. Instead, it looks for substance, for kindness, for consistency. It honors the value of time and effort. It respects boundaries and cherishes vulnerability. This love doesn't shy away from hard conversations or uncomfortable truths. It understands that growth comes from working through challenges together, not from avoiding them. More than that, second love is a reward because it brings with it a new kind of freedom. Freedom from the chains of past mistakes and toxic patterns. Freedom from the need to prove your worth to someone else. Freedom to be yourself fully, without masks or pretenses. This love doesn't ask you to be anyone other than who you are. It embraces your history, your scars, your quirks. It sees you and says, you are enough. And that acceptance is a gift more valuable than any fleeting romance. It is easy to mistake second love for a rebound because the heart is still tender, because the memories of the first love linger like shadows in the corners of the mind. But the difference lies in intention. A rebound is about filling a void. A reward is about finding fulfillment. A rebound is often about escape. A reward is about embrace. A rebound is a reaction. A reward is a decision. It's a conscious choice to love again, not because you have to, but because you want to. Not because you are desperate, but because you are hopeful. Second love rewards the heart that has waited, that has hoped in silence, that has refused to give up on the possibility of connection even when the world seemed to say otherwise. It rewards the patience that bore fruit. It rewards the courage it took to be vulnerable again after being hurt. It rewards the self-respect that says, I deserve real love. And when this love arrives, it feels like coming home. It feels like a blessing, a grace, a gentle reminder that healing is possible, and that love is never truly lost. This love is a celebration of survival. It acknowledges the pain and the struggle, but refuses to be defined by them. Instead, it transforms them into something beautiful. It says, I have been broken, but I am not broken beyond repair. It says, I have loved before, and I will love again, but this time I know what love really means, and that knowledge turns second love into a sanctuary, a place where two imperfect people find refuge in each other's hearts, where they can be honest, messy, real, and still be loved deeply. The reward of second love is also the chance to rewrite your story. To approach love not with fear or expectation, but with curiosity and openness. To explore what it means to be truly seen and truly known. To experience companionship that is not about filling gaps, but about expanding joy. This love invites you to grow alongside another human being, to build something steady and true, to create memories not rushed but savored. It is the slow unfolding of a partnership that honors the past while embracing the future. It is also a reward because it teaches forgiveness, not just of others, but of yourself. It helps you understand that your past does not disqualify you from being loved, that mistakes are not permanent stains, but lessons etched into your soul. That the heart is resilient and capable of mending in ways you never thought possible. This forgiveness brings peace, and peace makes space for love to flourish. Second love is a reward because it arrives wrapped in grace. It is patient when you are still healing. It is gentle when you are still guarded. It waits for you to trust again and never rushes the process. It understands the value of each moment shared and honors the sacredness of taking time to build something that lasts. It does not demand, it invites. It does not push, it welcomes. And in that invitation there is freedom. A freedom to be exactly who you are and still be cherished. So when second love comes, do not see it as a fallback or a consolation. See it for what it truly is, a treasure, a prize, a reward for all that you have endured and all that you have become. It is proof that the heart is not easily defeated, that hope is not in vain. That love, in its most profound form, is a gift given to those who have walked through the fire and emerged ready to love not because it's easy, but because it's real. This love is a testimony to the power of resilience, the beauty of patience, and the strength of an open heart. It is not a rebound. It is a reward, a sacred, precious reward, waiting for you to claim it with grace, with courage, and with the full knowledge that you are worthy of a love that is deep, lasting, and true. So, as you stand at the crossroads of your heart's journey, remember this. Second love is not a second choice or a quick fix. It is not the result of running away from pain or hiding from loneliness. It is the shining reward for those who dared to hope again. It is the beautiful fruit that grows when you have tended your heart with patience, courage, and self-respect. This love is a testament to your strength and a celebration of your growth. You have been through storms, some you thought might never end. You have known the weight of heartbreak and the ache of loss, but here you are, still standing, still open, still willing to love, and that alone is worthy of honor. Because love is not for the faint of heart. It is for those who have learned that pain is not the end of the story, but the beginning of a new chapter. When second love comes to you, receive it with open hands and an open heart. Receive it as the gift it is, because it is. It's the universe's way of saying, you have grown, you have healed, you are ready. It is a reward, not a consolation. It is a recognition of your resilience, your willingness to trust again, your readiness to build something authentic. This love will not rush you, nor will it ask you to forget where you came from. Instead, it will walk with you gently, honoring the path you have traveled. It will give you space to be yourself, fully and completely. It will invite you to love not only another person, but also yourself more deeply than ever before. It will teach you that love is not about losing yourself in someone else, but about finding yourself alongside someone who values the real you. You don't have to settle for less than you deserve. You don't have to sacrifice your peace or your truth for the sake of love. Second love encourages you to bring your whole self to the table, your joys, your fears, your dreams, your scars, and to be met there with acceptance and grace. It is not about perfection, it is about presence. It is not about idealizing, but about appreciating. It is not about rushing to the finish line, but about savoring every step of the journey. And in that journey, you will discover a love that is steady, reliable, and nourishing. A love that feels like home, a love that makes you stronger, not smaller, a love that invites you to grow, to heal, and to dream anew. This is the reward, the beautiful, lasting reward that you deserve. So, to anyone listening who wonders if second love can be real, can be lasting, can be worthy, let me assure you it can. It is not a shadow of your first love, but its light. It is not a replacement, but a continuation of your story with more wisdom, more compassion, and more truth. It is not a fallback, it is a rise up. Take the time you need, heal at your pace, and when the time comes, open your heart without fear, because second love is waiting, not in haste, but in hope, not in desperation, but in grace. It is ready to meet you where you are and walk beside you into a future full of possibility. This is your moment to receive what you have earned. This is your moment to believe in love again. Not the fantasy love of youth, but the rich, textured, rewarding love of a heart that has been tested and found worthy. So step forward with courage, step forward with faith, and know this: the second love you have dreamed of is not just possible, it is waiting to be your greatest reward.